right, guys, welcome back to Jog Your Mind, Season 2, Episode 4, diving in to talk all about self-talk and inner dialogue, pep talks, everything. I think this is one of the most requested things that I get as a coach about how do I talk myself up, how do I get myself excited, how do I pull myself out of a tough spot. And before we get into that, I'm going to make a request, and actually I'm going to incentivize you guys. We got some socks, all right? And our friends at Skratch have given us a couple pairs of socks to do as giveaways as part of some support for Jog Your Mind. And don't worry, I will have some cool stuff a little bit later, some actual product for you guys in future episodes. But for this one, you guys can get a pair of socks by completing our Mental Game Scorecard. This is kind of something that I've put together as a bigger tool and just something for you guys to think about. When it comes to the Mental Game Scorecard, there is 12 questions and you're ranked 1 through 10, and you guys score yourselves at the end of it. The other great thing, you guys can choose it if you want. I will send you guys a tip back. So if there's something specific, maybe a low number, or maybe there's a specific question you have, because I put something in there at the end for you guys to leave me some notes. I'm going to choose 2 people at random to get these socks. And the only way that I will know where to send them is by getting your email. So use your email, put your first name in there for me, and then answer 12 questions and anything else you feel like would be helpful that you would like to get back as a tip from me. So that is our little raffle, our little fun, a nice fun pair of socks from our friends over at Skratch. All right. So I will also preface by saying at the very end of this, I went through kind of a good mental pep talk that I've done with myself at the very end of this episode. So stay all the way until the end if it's something that you want to walk through and guide through. I think it's about 45 seconds. It is not going to be on video. This is something that I do. I sit, I close my eyes, and it's just a good way for me to talk, kind of go through my final visualization. And it's even something that I talk through in my head as I'm doing my dynamic warm-up before a race. So this is just a great thing that I've kind of learned, that I've kind of memorized, that I talk to about myself. And that is a big part of what we're going to talk about today. But let's talk about kind of some of the nerdy back-end stuff first. So as I was doing some research for this episode, I found a really cool study, and it's all about inner dialogue and its relationship to both perceived exertion as well as how do we see ourselves during different running intensities. And at 70 to 80%, which is, kind of your easy day run, we're able to disassociate really easily. We can think about all sorts of different things and stay on pace totally fine. Once we start to ratchet up to about 90%, we start to move from disassociation to association. And when we move into that place of association in our mind, this is where we can start to associate with good things. Yeah, this feels good. I feel great. I'm moving really fast. This is awesome. Or we can associate with negative experiences. Oh, last time it got this hard. Oh man, that's when I really fell apart. And then we get those red flags mentally and we wind ourselves down. And so what this study looked at is they asked athletes at the same pace for one run that at 9 minutes into a 10-minute run, which is a pretty hard pace, they asked them, what are you thinking about? What is your inner dialogue? And the inner dialogue for a runner at 9 minutes into a pretty hard run of 10 minutes was saying, I just need to execute and I need to close and I need to finish. At that same pace, at 9 minutes into a 20-minute run, what do you think they were thinking? Do you think they were thinking the same thing? I did at first. I thought, man, that's just a long time you got to hang on. But the reality is most of the participants said, I need to relax. I just need to stay in the groove and I will get through this. And it wasn't exceedingly positive and it wasn't exceedingly negative. It was about being in the moment and being right where you are. And I thought that was so impressive and really noteworthy because what it comes back to is the idea that when you are in the toughest part of the race, 50 to 80% of the race, that lap 3 of the mile scenario, you just have to try and maintain. You don't have to try and make some heroic move. You just need to go, this feels good, and I can keep going with it. And so as that translates, I noticed some really interesting things. We can start to kind of see how our inner dialogue and self-talk can really play a major role. And inner dialogue and self-talk are two different things. I want you guys to think that your internal dialogue is made up of like I positions, thinking about like, I can keep going, or I got this. Those are I positions. And it's really just an idea of like an exchange of thoughts and ideas within your own mind of what you're feeling. And sometimes that goes into, I can't do this. I can't keep going. They are going way faster than I can handle right now. That'd be a negative I position. But this dialogue that we have with ourselves and self-talk, it can really be broken down, right? It can be self-critical, it can be self-reinforcing, it can be self-measurement, and it can even be social assessment. And a lot of this social assessment is what we experience when we're on the start line and we look up and down and we see somebody who we know is fast. Maybe we think they're faster than us. And that is when we have to change that self-assessment and a reminder that all those other people that are out there, they have to beat you too. You don't just have to beat them. They have to beat you. And I think it's so empowering to think about the idea of you have to beat me. You have to earn the right to pass me inside a race, just as well as you have to earn the right to pass them. So when you make a move, make a good move. Let's get back. So self-talk is often a reaction or an anticipation of specific events. I often think of this in racing. Your inner dialogue is more of a reflective and contemplative action, meaning you're looking at it from the standpoint of other races, other times, right? And this can be both, again, positive and negative. A negative self-reflection is looking back on where you made a mistake last time and may have failed. Positive is looking back and saying, I've won before, I can win again. I've beat these people, I can beat them again. And so that inner dialogue really kind of takes on and involves our own personal identity, whereas self-talk seems to apply more to like identity questions and things indirectly, meaning we are looking at the situation about saying, I just need to finish versus I'm not strong enough or I am strong enough. And so let's kind of bring this all together. What does this look like? Well, self-talk is really the thing that helps us with emotional regulation and helps us cope with painful experiences. And I don't want you guys to just think that this is trauma, but painful experiences can also be a really tough race. Those are painful, they're uncomfortable, but it allows us to get perspective when we have self-talk. And so when we are using self-talk, we're often referring to ourselves in the third person, not always, but by majority. And this is what helps us cope. And so using different terms and using different strategies, and I want you guys to kind of think into the language of the things that I'm going to say here. Your self-talk is one of those things that helps you build momentum, right? Not just within a race, but inside your personal self-belief that when you know that you're coming up to the tough part, right? I always think about going into lap 3 of the mile. Yeah, it's tough, but if I'm talking to myself well down that back straight, I'm building momentum into that third lap because what do I know? I know that third lap is hard and I need to focus inside that lap. And so quite often I'll use some I statements. Here's a couple. I'm trying a new strategy. This is a really good one for when you're going into a race and you may feel like you're not quite trusting something new yet. Maybe your coach said, hey, I want you to press harder in the third lap than last time, right? So I'm trying a new strategy. Let's commit to this, right? Or I can run fast in lap 3. This is just one of those things that as you're coming down that back stretch, I can run fast in lap 3. Everybody can close well in lap 4, but I can run fast in lap 3. That's going to help you keep that momentum. And sometimes it's just taking that deep breath, saying a statement and having that self-talk, whether it's out loud or just what I consider kind of like my inner head voice is, okay, I can do this, right? It's that little like, all right, I got this. No one else has to hear it, but it's there. And sometimes just putting it out there is super important, kind of a whisper to yourself, so to speak. A couple more here. I can see clearly. This is one of those that I think is so beautiful. If you're someone that really reads into those statements, I can see clearly, okay, this feels good. I can see. I think of I can see clearly, meaning I can see that first place person, but I can also see past them. We can also move into using ourselves in that third person. And sometimes this is a really very powerful statement. I'll use myself in this. Andrew is strong on the start line, and just telling yourself that and reminding yourself and thinking about if there was an announcer out there talking to you, what would they say about you? And that also kind of makes us stand up a little bit straighter and think about how do we present ourselves and how does that body language show up? It's one of the key things in the Mental Game Scorecard. I digress. Andrew can handle big moments. Andrew is not afraid to hurt. If you guys have been here since season 1, you will know that phrase. Don't be afraid to hurt. That is one of my absolute favorite mantras, and that was given to me by one of my training partners just in a discussion before finishing up a workout when I felt like I was done. And he told me, don't be afraid to hurt. And it stuck with me. Another one, and one of my favorites, and it's a photo that'll be a part of this week's newsletter, is the words, don't back down. And if Jenna's listening, she will know that that's her phrase. And that was something that was really powerful when we talked this cross-country season as she came back from an injury. And that idea of not backing down when things get tough, that can really help us, again, build momentum. And it's something that we can write on our hand. But this self-talk and this dialogue is so important because when we get into that critical part of the race, we need to be able to remind ourselves and talk to ourselves, saying things like, this is a comfortable pace. Even when you're in the mile and you're in that lap 3, saying to yourself, hey, this is comfortable, we're good. Or even saying, we do this in practice, just breathe. And you have to bring yourself down. You need to be the hostage negotiator in this situation. And reminding yourself, there isn't much left. We can do this. So inside those moments, it's always good to remember, like, I'm in the race right now. And all I have to do is hang on and be tough. And I will get through this. And there is things after this. And there is going to be plenty of other opportunities to race. One of the things that I see so many athletes get caught in, and this is especially for my people in junior year, you guys get caught in the idea that, oh, I want to go run in college. And all of a sudden, every race matters 10 times as much because now you have to send it off to a coach or it's going to be on your record. And, oh, I don't want a bad race. Well, the reality is that you're still learning, you're still in high school, and that the more pressure you put on yourselves, more than likely, the worse you're going to do. So learning how to talk yourself down and be able to bring moments that you might think beforehand, before you have a good inner dialogue and good self-talk, you're way up here. And being able to bring those things down and be like, oh, it's just a race. It's just an invite. It's no big deal. These aren't Olympians. Like, just reminding yourself that, again, this is high school and this is your place to learn. You create a safe place to fail, which is so important. And so I want to talk about one last thing, and we will conclude this. I'll have a little bit of a pause in the video, and then I will talk you guys kind of through a self-talk that I do. And so I want to talk you guys through a little bit of a pre-race pep talk. Sometimes it's just good to read these. I encourage athletes to use this as part of their loose plan, and this is a very personal thing. And so you don't have to use mine, of course, but I'll give you guys a couple liner notes. So I think a really great pep talk kind of has a few elements. 1, keep it simple, clear, and powerful. 2, evoke previous success for confidence. And that can mean that it changes this little pep talk. Think about your last great successes, right? It may have been a recent time trial that you did, and you need to draw on that because it's early in the season. 3, tell yourself what to focus on to play your best. And so this is one of those times where it's like, I need to focus on lap 3 because that's where I can make my move and that's where I need to be strong, right? Think about what we talk about in the loose plan. It's about having a purpose. That's where this fits in your pep talk. 4th element, remember there is nothing to lose and everything to gain. I think this goes back to the earlier piece I talked about when it comes to colleges. You have everything to gain still. And you going in positive and excited and pumped up, always a good thing. And then the last piece here is making sure that you make a decision to enjoy the moment and kind of give yourself a moment that you want to focus on. It could be the last 10 meters of the finish line because it's the state championship, or it could be your last race as a senior, or it could just be that you get to race. The opportunity to race is always so important. And so with that said, we're at 15 minutes. That's usually my hard cut. I hope this was a good episode for you guys. I will have a really cool download for you guys as part of this as well. And please don't forget, go out and do the Mental Game Scorecard for a chance to win some fun socks from our friends at Skratch. With that said, I will see you guys next week for episode 5. I'll see you guys later. Okay. All right. Let's take a few deep breaths, clear the mind, and get centered. All right. I'm well prepared, ready to race. The other runners have to beat me. I don't have to beat them. Over and over again, I visualized crossing the finish line first. It's time now to focus on what I will do to run fast and get today's best performance. I'm going to trust my running mechanics. I'm going to trust my strategy, and I'm going to charge home on the finish stretch. I'm going to leave it all out there. I have nothing to lose, but everything to gain. I'm going to cherish each moment as it comes. I'm bringing everything I've got. So let's just free it up. Let's go clear, have some fun, and make some noise.